Hey Stampers, fifth and last video tutorial coming at you for May Stamp Club, where we didn't do any stamping at all. This is a treat bag, so we did the diaper fold, the sour cream container, pinch top box, long thin box, and we're going to do a treat bag with this last one. And what we used was, this is the Flashback DSP that I'm going to do the sample with today, but what we're using at Club is the Gold Soiree, the specialty DSP, a little bit thicker, a little shiny, which is nice, and I thought it made a pretty good treat bag. And again, I know I'm repeating myself in some of these videos, but we didn't do any embellishing, we didn't do any stamping. This is what we made. I wanted them to have their templates for 5 different ways of gifting. And so making it at a DSP made it pretty. So at least they went home with something finished and pretty, and they could go home and embellish it if they want to, or save it as their template. Hopefully watch these videos and then create their own and embellish to their heart's content. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to make the box, and then we'll go from there. Now, before we get started with that, with this guy, this isn't finished and closed. So whether or not you use your 2-way glue pen and let it dry so that you have a tacky glue and then closed it up, you could use the little Velcro dots, the little magnets that you can get at craft stores, whether you put a brad here and a brad here and then used your baker's twine to do little S's to close it, whether you put a brad here and then put the top of the brad up enough so that your paper just kind of goes underneath it like this to hold it closed. Use ribbon and make a belly band. There's tons of ways to close this little pouch. So it just, if you're looking at it going, well, how does that close? You can have tons of ways to close this up once you're ready. And in the step-by-step photos that I saw, I found there were photos online on Pinterest. And for the ones that I saw, they didn't have adhesive on the bottom. I chose to put adhesive on the bottom because I thought, depending on what you're putting in it, if there's any weight to it, the bottom will just fall out, and you'll see what I mean once we actually do it. So I did adhesive on the bottom as well. You don't have to because it's a flap, so you can tuck it in. So here we go. This is the Flashback DSP. A little bit different this time around. And you have a 10.5 by an 8 3/8. So 10.5 by 8 3/8. Now on the 10.5 side, we're going to do 2 scores that are a little different. Okay, I love the Stampin' Up! Simply Score because there's great markers down the side as well. And you want to go to your 5-inch mark roughly. Above, below, above is no problem. I probably wouldn't go below 5. But right around that mark, I'm just going to hold my finger here. And I'm going to score at, make sure that's up at the top, put my finger here. I'm going to score at 6/8. And I'm only going to come down to my finger. Okay? And then I'm going to go over to 5 6/8, right around this mark as well. So 5 6/8. And I'm going to come down roughly to my finger. Okay? So those ones do not go all the way down. I'm going to stay on the 10.5 side, and I'm going to score at 1.5 all the way down, at 5 all the way down, at 6.5 all the way down, and at 10 all the way down. Okay? Now, I found it easier this way. It's not going to matter because you can flip your paper, so you should be able to flip either way and do the other scoring. What I had chosen to do was to keep my lines on my right hand side. So if this makes any sense, my 2 5-inch scores, which are right here, okay, so I'm going to put those score lines on my right side. So my 5-inch marks come down to right about here. So this is my blank spot. Hope that makes sense. So we score, 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 and what I did was I rotated it to the right. Okay? What'll happen is if you rotated it the other way and then went to fold your lines, what'll happen is you may end up with a different side on the outside of your bag than what you intended. Okay? So that's why it's just a little easier that way. Both sides are always pretty, so it really doesn't matter, does it? So now we're on the 8 3/8 side, and we are going to score at 1/2 inch, at 2 inches, at 7 inches, and this one's really close, 7 2/8. So you have just a little tiny bit of room. So 1/2, 2, 7, and 7 2/8. Okay, that can go away. All of your scoring is done. This is a finicky part. Bear with me. Here is a template, which was on the blog post. They had pictures of this, which was wonderful. It's a big help. So I'll do the same thing, and then put the links in my blog post as well to send you back to the original. So what you want to do, everything that's shaded is what you want to remove. Okay. So on this top corner, look at the picture on the blog post. It'll help. I'll see if I can insert it in the video as well. But on this top corner, we're going to start by removing the rectangle up here, right down to that second score line. Okay. And then we're going to come to the other side of our flap, because this is going to be the top of our bag. So we're going to come here, we're going to cut down and take all of this off here. So we're going to come down to that second score line, and we're going to cut this all off. That is not a clean line. There we go. Okay. So we've got that all done. So then we want to come to the bottom, and I'm going to take this little rectangle off first, so you can see where our score line is. Okay. You'll see that there's a line here though, so we want to make this square a slit. This is going to be our flap for the bottom, and then I didn't fold on my score lines. I think I mentioned it in another video that helps me see my score lines, so you might want to do that. Take a moment to fold all your score lines. So there we go. So we've got a cut, we've removed, we've got our slits. Now we need to take this last rectangle off. And then we're also going to go up the side of this square. You see that matches. So you've got two squares. And then we're going to take all of this piece off. Pause, rewind the video, look at the picture template I'm going to post in the blog post. I'll try to insert it in the video as well. I know it can be time consuming, but once you've got it, this is my 5th time I've done this bag, and I haven't even had club yet, so I'll do it 2 more there. So once you get going and do them, it'll be much easier to get the pieces, and it won't be as finicky, I promise. So now, if you haven't already paused the video and folded your score lines, you can do that now. I have mentioned in other videos, and I don't know why I didn't do it this time around, it's just a mind blank. I usually fold my score lines before I do my cutting because I find it a lot easier to see. And with this stripy pattern, that would have helped me a lot this time around. And actually, I'm going to fold the other way because I think I want my dots on the outside. So that's what I'm going to do. Your 5-inch score lines, those score lines that don't come all the way down, you're probably realizing what they're for now. Do not fold those. Okay? They're what's going to cinch your bag. Okay? It's going to give it that little crease. For right now, fold all the other score lines except for those halfway down ones. Okay? Does that make sense? So you can kind of see now those halfway down lines, they're these guys. They're the ones that are going to make that crease in your bag. How cool is that? Okay, so next what I want to do is I want to take my Project Life corner rounder. This is my top flap of my bag. So I'm going to corner round that just to make it look pretty because I like it. You don't have to do that one if you don't want to. This one is perfectly square and it looks great. That's the top. So this is the bottom of my bag. What I found was easier was taking these squares and making sure you've cut the whole score line out of there. Okay, because you know how you can kind of cut on both sides of a score line. make sure they're, because these are the flaps on the bottom of your bag. They're going to have to fold under. You don't want them sticking out. You don't want them getting in the way. So just trim those up a little bit. And then I corner rounded these guys as well. For the bottom of, if you're not going to do the top of the bag, that's fine. For the bottom of the bag, I would highly suggest corner rounding, because when you're doing that bottom flap, especially if you don't put adhesive on it, it'll be easier to do and undo the bottom flap if the corners are rounded. Okay. All kinds of bits and bobs here. Okay, let's get that out of the way. So there we have it. There is our bag. How cool is that? Love this paper. Flashback paper. Awesome. So we've got our bag, our front, our back, our top, our bottom, and we've got this little flap on the side. Okay, you're going to put adhesive all the way down there. And again, I know I'm repeating myself. I'm using snail because it's a video. If you are putting this together to gift, use Tombow, sticky strip, fuse, something that's a little bit easier, or tougher, I should say. So we've put our snail on the strip. I'm going to fold this over. This is inside of my bag. This is my front flap with my adhesive. I'm going to fold this over. The measurements are all equal on this bag. I love this part because I don't have to fiddle with it. I can just fold this over and it lines up perfectly. I love it when that happens. So now we've got a little box. Okay, and now is the time when you can take your score lines that go halfway down and pinch those together. You only need to pinch the top. They only go down so far. You just want to cinch the top of that bag. So that's going to be your top. Okay, now for your bottom, you can fold these over. So you see how, I mean, when I was saying you might want to trim up the edges of your squares, this is why. If they were too wide, they'd get in the way of the lid, or they'd stick out over the front of the bag. Okay, so there's your flaps. This guy folds under, and with corner rounding these edges, this slides in so much easier than when they're square. It sounds funny, it's just a corner round, but it makes a huge difference. And that is technically the end of your bag. Now, it's snug. Okay, it's not gonna, well, it might pop out on its own. Mine's nice and snug. So if you're putting something light in there, you're good to go. If you've got any weight to what you're gifting at all, I would highly suggest putting some adhesive on this strip here and then popping it in. Okay? Be very careful. I would use Tombow for this one so that you've got that second or two of wiggle room to get it in there, and then you can reach your hand in and squeeze that shut with the Tombow glue. With sticky strip or with fuse, you're not going to have wiggle room, and it's going to be tough to get in. So I'd use Tombow on the bottom of the bag, a liquid glue of any kind that you've got. Okay, just to glue that shut. And this guy is all glued. Oh no, he's not. Oh no, he's not glued. There we go. I'll show you. I thought this guy had adhesive on him. I'll run some adhesive here. And I just found that way, you know, the bottom of your box or treat bag, gift bag, is not going to come undone. If you're going to put some candies in there, do them out of Halloween paper and do little Halloween gift bags, they're going to be heavy enough that bottom might come out. So some adhesive will do the trick. But still, 2 pieces of adhesive for a whole bag, that's awesome. And there you have it. There is your treat bag. Marvelous. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Have fun and happy stamping.